Hey guys, what's going on today? Welcome to another episode or another show on the XMAXX. Today I'm going to show you guys how to replace the front shock tower. We've already covered the rear in the previous video. If you're looking for how to do that one, just check the XMAXX playlist and it will be the video right before this one. Today we're going to pull the front shock tower, so we're just going to jump right into it. If there's anything we need to discuss, we'll discuss that at the end of the video so you guys can go ahead and get what you need. So let's get started. First, as usual, let's go over some tools. Alright, so the only thing I believe we will need today are going to be a drill or even a hand driver of some sort. You don't have to have a drill. You can totally use your Traxxas or any other brand of hand driver. You're going to need a 1.5, and you're going to need a 2mm. I use a little 1.5 to push pins out, and I also use it for a pointer. Just some needle nose to remove any pins that may be stubborn. Sometimes they're too short to pull out with your fingers, or slippery. And again, just a hand driver to tighten everything by hand manually once they've been ran in with these. And then I've got my Dewalt, and you see my Walmart Hypertough. So I think that is going to get the job done. So let's go ahead and hop to the truck now. Okay, first thing we're going to do, pull the bumper. I'm going to grab my 2.5, and we're going to start off with the Hypertough, I believe. See if it'll let me get in there with these tires in the way or not. So you have 4 screws total in the bumper. You're going to have this one here, and then you can see these 2 down below. Grab my part dish. Here we go. Gotta have the parts dish. Alright, we're going to pull the other side out. Okay. Now the 2 down below right here. Okay. Doing this shock tower is really not much any different than doing the rear. We already got our front bumper off, 4 screws, just set it right to the side. As I was saying, doing this one is not a whole lot different than doing the rear. You do have to remove the bell crank, but it's not really a big deal. We're going to get this done in probably the same amount of time that it'll take to do the rear. Okay, so we got the front bumper off. Now we need to remove the upper A-arm hinge pins. First the retainers, then the pins, then after that we will pull the pins from the top of the shocks here. So let's go ahead and get that done, starting with the upper A-arm hinge pins. We're going to use our 2mm for that. I'm going to chuck up my Dewalt. Those are going to be located right here, and these are again a 2mm. Alright, now we're going to jump up to the upper shock pins. Those are also going to be a 2mm retaining screw. They don't have the little cover, they only have the screw. So we're going to pull those out. Okay, now the upper A-arm hinge pins and shock pins are ready to be pulled. We're going to leave those for just a moment until we're ready to pull the actual shock towers off, I believe. I have an old XMAXX tire here, and I'm just going to go ahead and place it underneath the chassis just in case something falls loose. It won't just fall and slam on the table. Okay, now let's go ahead and remove the screws that retain the shock towers. Okay, I believe that's a pretty good view for you guys. I hope it is. So we're going to go ahead and remove, this is a lot like the rear one. So we're going to go ahead and remove, got a screw here, we have a screw here that goes through the shock tower into the main chassis brace. After that, we're going to go ahead and reach down and try to get the screws out of the bell crank. It can be gotten to through the access holes in the chassis brace. So you're going to need a 2.5mm for that. I'm going to go back to my Dewalt. I think I like it better. I believe just because it's faster. I think that's the only reason I like it better. Okay. So now we've got that chassis brace loose. You can see it moving right there. And we'll just let it chill right there. So we're going to remove this screw here. You're going to have a screw here and a screw here to replace, to remove, I'm sorry. And then of course you're going to remove the same that we did in the rear. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So let's go ahead and start getting those pulled out. And these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 are 25 millimeter long. Like the rear ones, they're long. They go through the shock tower into the chassis and then finally down into the front bulkhead. So 2.5. Let's start pulling them out. Remember, when you hear that little pop, it's that starter thread kind of jumping, kind of telling you it's already backed out, ready to be removed. Okay, this screw here, you can't see it. I see in my monitor that you can't see it. Before I remove it, I'm going to change angles here so that you can see every screw, so we don't leave anything out. We also need to remove this screw right here, and that's a 2 millimeter. Okay. Okay, before I move it, let me go ahead and show you guys this other screw that you weren't able to see. So I'm going to move my tire. I'm going to roll this back. There you go. So this screw here, this one and this one you weren't able to see while ago, so now you know the location. It's in the very front of the belt crank. Okay, let's start pulling these screws out. And now I'm just going to use my needle nose for that. That's another reason I had them out. It makes it easier to reach down in there and get them out. So we're pulling out a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be 8 screws. This one screw here isn't ready to come out. Yeah, it is. Come on out, little guy. There you go. Okay, total of 8 screws. Now some of these are different lengths, so we're gonna go over something I've been wanting to cover with you guys to show you guys what screws go where, how to find out, and all that good stuff. So not sure if I'm going to put that in the video where it's time to put it together or put it at the end. Probably I'll put it in the video because you're going to need to know to put it together and not strip any screws out. Okay, so the belt crank is ready to come out. I can reach in here and you'll see that it moves. Okay, so we got all these screws out, all 8. Now I'm going to turn the truck back around so you guys can see. We're going to pull the shock pin and the upper A-arm pins. Okay. You're just going to put a tire, whatever you got underneath it, just like that there. All right, and then we're just going to pull these pins out. So the shock pins will come out from the backside, and that's what I use this little 1.5 for. So I'll push it out, drop it in the part dish. Shocks are ready to come out. We will take our needle nose and just pull the upper A-arm pins, 1 and 2. At this point, all this stuff here will just fold right out at us. So let's take and do that. See, that's all folded back out of the way. That'll drop. Okay, it's not going to fold out like the back. I forgot because it's got the actual tie rods on it, but everything's well out of the way. So now we've got all the screws out of the bulkhead and all that good stuff, or out of the belt crank rather. I believe there's going to be 2 in the front. Nope, it's ready to come out. Okay, so let me be sure you guys have the perfect viewing angle, or a good one rather. Okay, so now let's go ahead and wiggle it out of there. We're going to leave the chassis brace intact. We're going to leave the belt crank just laying in there. You should be able to fish this thing right out of there. So we're going to pull back on the chassis brace just a little bit, just lift up on it, just like we did the rear if you saw the rear video. And then this should come right out. Yeah, there it is. There you go. Lift it right out of place. The belt crank also came out too, but it literally sits right back down on there. Let me show you guys. So you'll put it back in, and it fits right over the bearing and right back into place. That's all there is to that. Now, at this point, if you wanted to upgrade your belt crank to a billet one, then this video will work for you, because we're literally pulling the front end apart to get to what you need. And you know, you take your stock one out, put your aftermarket one back in there. All right, let's move the truck out of the way, show you guys how to separate the shock towers. Very straightforward. Put them back together and put the truck back together. All right guys, so I got the truck out of the way, got the shock towers here in front of us. So they sit on the truck as if the front of the truck was facing that way. They sit on the truck just like this, opposite of the rear ones. So now to take these apart, they're same as the rear, very straightforward. So you'll look down in here and you will see that there are a couple of screws. If I can ever find the light, there's a screw up here and there's a screw down here. They're 2.5 millimeters. So I'm going to pull those out real quick, and I'm going to do the same thing to this one that I did to the rear set. Once you pull these two screws out, it's ready in two pieces. So I'm going to dump this screw out. Now we've got them laying there. And this is how they come in the package. So that's how they come out of the packages, in two halves like that. And I have my XMAXX little tackle box over there, and then I have a big tote full of the big stuff, like bulkheads, chassis braces. There's a front and rear bulkhead, another bulkhead down here. Got, you know, the bumpers. I got a big tote, all the big stuff that I obviously can't carry with me. Okay, so the thing I'm going to do with this one here, and it's a good idea if you just got your brand new truck, before you run it, you already know where I'm going if you've seen my video on the rear ones. So when these are screwed together like this, right, and you got your screws tight, when the truck lands cockeyed, you know, on corners, just flips, tumbles, whatever it does, you know, the whole chassis is flexing and it wants to pull these apart. And sometimes you will get where you pull your body off your truck and your shock towers look just like that on top. And what it's done is it's pulled that screw head right through the plastic. And to kind of alleviate that, what I started doing was I just take a couple of washers like that and just put them on the screw, and it gives that screw a little bit more area and it doesn't want to pull through as easy. Honestly, since I've started doing this, I haven't pulled any more through there. And the reason you want this, you know, the bad thing is when that separates like that, it's not solid anymore. It's not really bracing the chassis anymore. So the chassis begins to flex. What happens when it flexes, like say the back, if the chassis flexes enough, then your motor pinion and your spur, the mesh gets out of tolerance. You can tear those up. If it flexes enough, you can snap a bulkhead. When the bulkhead you know, when the bulkhead breaks, then your ring gear and your pinion gear come out of tolerance. You can chip those off. You'll break the diff cover, and the list goes on. So real quick fix, or you know, a really good thing you can do is put you some washers on there, and it sure cannot hurt. It definitely won't hurt anything. So we're going to just put these back together, and they only go together one way. So you grab them out of the package, you just line up the shapes basically, and go right back in. So let's go ahead and put this back together and get it back on the truck. Now you can see in there how it's got a little more area to that screw. It's not going to pull through. I'm not going to say it ain't going to pull through, but definitely not as easily. I've never had one pull back through after this, so we'll just run these in until they're snug, and then we're going to finish by hand. Always guys, try to finish everything up by hand. It just alleviates stripping something out. If you strip out one of these, then the brace is pretty much pointless because it's not bracing anything then. Okay, so shock tower is all back together, just the way it came apart. We did add a couple of washers in there. There you go. And let me get the chassis back over here and we will put it back together. Alright, I'm going to turn the chassis around to put it back in, I think, because I took it out this way and I want to show a different perspective. So when the shock tower goes back in, it obviously goes in like this, right? Okay, so you got these two little deals right here. These go down inside here. And the reason you got to pull the A-arms is because these pins go all the way through the A-arm, through the bulkhead, and also through the shock tower. So first thing you want to do is start these in here, start getting them into place. Then everything else will fall right back into place. But you really can't see too well, I don't think, so I'm going to turn it around where you guys can see it perfectly, or a whole lot better. Hopefully you guys right there can see what goes down. So we're going to go ahead and put this back on. So it goes on like this here. So like I said, we're going to start this area down inside here. Now this chassis brake, you can just kind of fish all this around, start it down inside that bulkhead. Now it's already trying to go down on top of the bell crank. So what we're going to do, we're going to just take this bell crank and just set it back out of the way, just like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this back in here. We're going to fish this around the chassis brace. It was so easy the first time, right? There we go. Now, okay, it's already gone down the bulkhead. That's where it needs to be. You can see right over here in the corners, it's already sat down in its spot. So now we're going to go ahead and get the bell crank and put it back where it belongs. Okay, so there's a bearing right here. Okay, so the bell crank has a little bearing journal or race, however you want to, whatever you want to call it, that has to go right over that bearing. That kind of tells you how it goes in case you get all mixed up with it. So you can just fish it back in there. And you know what, guys, I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be better than anybody else. I'm just a guy who's taking the time to do these videos for you guys. I just told you a while ago, when you're doing your shock towers, it's a good time to do your bell crank. Well, obviously, the bell crank will come out without the shock towers. I forgot that it will. So if you want to upgrade your bell crank, there you go. Okay, so let's set this back in here. You know, guys, I'm learning just like you guys are. I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm not going to claim to be a professional at this. I've only owned an XMAXX for about 18 months. Well, I own a lot of vehicles. The XMAXX got me started, but yeah, I'm not a professional, or I don't claim to be better than anybody else, guys. Just somebody that wants to help. That's it. Okay, everything is set back in there now. Now we need to figure out what screws go where. So I think I'm going to turn the cameras off for a second. I'm going to do what I need to do to show you guys how to measure screws and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so we're going to go to Traxxas.com, and if the audio sucks, I'm really sorry. I'm using a set of Skull Candy headphones. Okay, so parts and accessories right here. We click that. We go to select model by exploded view. Go down to the XMAXX, and we're working in the front, so we select right here, front exploded view. We click that and scroll down, and now we look for those screws. So I'm going to zoom in just a bit right here. Okay, well, right here, 7720 is your front upper bulkhead. 7739 is your shock tower. Half, here's your other half. So here is the bell crank, 7746. You see there? Okay, so here are our screws. So these three holes, 1, 2, 3 on this side, these three here, this hole, it's a short screw, so it's 4 screws. So these 4 screws are right here, or 4 by 12. We can click on those. They even identify them, 4 by 12 millimeter. Okay, so we know these three are going to be 12s. This one is going to be a 12. And then I spoke about this 4 by 25, the 25 millimeter. This one here is going to be one that goes on the outside, and I will point that out along with the other 3. We took out a total of 8. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is one of the long ones. And then you got 2 long ones on the other side, followed by 1 more on the same side. So that tells you your length. We can click on this. Boom, we know those are 4 by 25. Now I'm going to show you how to measure them if you don't know. But this is a very good tool. You can take this, you can right click this and print it, take it back with you, and then you'll know exactly. You won't have to rush to your computer or change rooms or anything like that. You can kind of print this out, and then you'll know what screws go where. Okay, so now we've got this done, let's hop back into the studio and get this truck together. Okay guys, so showed you guys that. So now we know that you're going to have the short screws go here, here, and here. You have a long screw here, followed by the other long screws. And I'll show you as we get this thing back together. So that's a pretty cool way to know where everything goes. And when I do like a major repair on this, well, I mean, like a bulkhead. I mean, I'm saying it's not a major repair when I talk about it, but you take a lot of screws out. So that kind of makes it a little more difficult because just there's so many screws and it takes the longest trying to figure out where all the screws go, you know. Not a lot of working room in there. Okay, that's all back into place. So now I'm going to show you guys what I use to measure the screws with. And there's different ways you can do this. You can measure them before and put them in little like clear condiment cups that are small, and you can label it, put 4x12 on there. You can poke them through cardboard. You can do whatever is easiest for you. I'm usually pretty sloppy about it. I just throw them in my parts dish and then measure them, and it takes me forever. So I got some calipers here that I just bought because my other ones got broke. I don't know what happened. I think something got dropped on the screen. And I'm not real happy with these. They're kind of funky. But anyway, I'm going to show you guys here how I measure the screws. So let's get a 4x12. Pretty much know what a 4x12 looks like. So here's a 4x12 screw, and we are going to measure. So the way this works is you turn it on and you zero it. So you hit 0 now. And see, that's why I say when I say it's funky, it really shouldn't fluctuate like that. So open, close, and see it's at a different spot every time. Open, close. Okay. So the way I measure these is most people would probably do it kind of like this, but you're supposed to measure it just like this here. So you put it there and you run that down until it touches. You see what I'm doing right there? Boom. Okay. Now we're going to look at our measurement, and we've got 11.97 millimeters. So this here is a 4x12. Where does the 4 come from? I'll show you. So we will zero that. You'll measure the actual diameter. You get 3.91. 3.90. So they call it a 4. And these here, I don't think they're right because my other one was always on the money. If I measured 12, it was 12, 12.01 or 11.99. The 4 would show like 4.01, you know, just it was right there. But this will definitely get you close enough. I talked about these right here being 4x25, so we're going to try to measure these the same way. Just turn the screw over, you put this here, and then you just run this down until it hits the head. Right there. And look at that. 25 on the money, right? Alright, now we're going to measure what's supposed to be 4. You got 3.68. So who knows, it may be right, but that's a 4x25 right there. So what you can do now is just take and you measure all these. Once you measure one, you know, you don't have to measure every one of them. You know that's a 4x25. Find all the other ones that are the same length, and you're going to just take and lay them together. You're going to take all your 4x12s. Once you've identified one, you know what they look like, take and lay them together. And then once you've got that done, you're home free. You know where everything goes. You looked at your schematic. You looked at your schematic and you know where they go. So let's go ahead and start putting these back into place. Okay, so let's start with the 4x25s. We know those are going to go out here on the outside, right here. You know, and if you're scared you're going to forget when you get back, just print the page out, have it right there with you. What I used to have, I don't even know where I have it somewhere. I'm starting to remember a lot now because I do it so much. I had just a little 1-inch binder, and I got some of the plastic sheet things that you put the page down inside, and I had them like that. You know, I had one for XMAXX, one for Revo, and I would just flip through and get what I needed, and boom, I did it that way. We need one more 4x25, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So yeah, I got me a little binder out in the outdoor shop, and that's what I used to use, and it worked real good for me. And also, it's common sense too. You put a long screw in and you start running it in, it stops, and it's not all the way in, you know it's too long. But on the opposite, if you're putting in a short screw like this, and it's supposed to take a 4x15, so I mean a 4x15 is not much different. if you screw it in and it doesn't grab enough and you think it's getting tight and you finish tightening it up, it could strip, and it probably will strip. So that's where it gets kind of sketchy. Okay, so we have our 4x25s back in the outsides where they belong. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll put our 4x12s back in and we'll tighten everything up together. So 4x12 goes right there in the front. So the 4x12 goes right here. Another one goes right there. All right. And the other goes right dead center right there. Okay, so we've got 7 of our screws back in. Now we have one more screw that's going to go right here. For now, let's go ahead and get all these tight. That way this can settle in where it needs to be, I believe, and then we're going to put that last one in there. So I am going to relocate your view just a little bit because you're not going to see anything. Y'all don't want to see my ugly hand. Alright, so let's go ahead and run these in, and we're just going to screw them in and then tighten them by hand. Okay, those are all snug. Now we need to put in this one right here. This one that goes right here is going to be a smaller screw. It measures, this one here is actually going to be, yeah, these don't zero out. I don't like these at all. This one's off by 0.14 millimeters. So I'm going to be taking it back. So this one is 10 millimeter long. This is a 3x10. 3x10 that goes right there. 2 millimeter. Alright, we're going to put it back in. I'm going to use my Hypertough for this one. Okay, barely snugged it up. So let's go ahead and tighten all these up now, so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. So we have one here we have to tighten, one hiding right here in this corner. This one right here. I'll show you guys where that one's at. I like to be sure that you guys can see everything. Otherwise, I'm not teaching anybody anything. This one over here. Okay. Followed by this one here. Okay. And it looks like I forgot to tighten these up. It looks like I forgot to run these in, so I'll just run them in real quick. Okay, I'll snug these up. That's all it takes. This is it right here, check it out. So there it is, loose. Turning it in, it stopped there, and I'm going to give it this. That's about it. Okay, let me turn off my inaccurate calipers real quick. Alright, so now let's take a look at what we've got. So we've got all these screws back in. Everything's snug. Now we need to put the screws back into the shock tower that lead into the chassis brace. Those are also a 2.5 millimeter torque bit. So we will take and put those in right here. That's it. And this one here, I'm not going to be able to twist it like that on the other side. So I will grab the old Dewalt and we'll run her in. Okay. Finish it up by hand. There we go. All right, shock towers are back in. They're tight. The bell crank is tightened up. Everything's ready to go right there. Now I'm going to turn the chassis back around again, get you guys a good front view, and we're going to button it up real quick. Okay, let's go ahead and start with putting in our upper A-arms. Okay, longer pins go in the upper A-arms, the longer hinge pins. So then what we're going to do is you've got, right here, you got two sets of holes. You can see here. So just look at the back and see where those are located and do the same with the front. The back ones are on the lower holes, so we're going to go back in with the lower holes. So we're going to go ahead and be sure that our dog bone here goes back into the diff where it needs to go, into the drive cup. You'll pull that out. And I'm going to have to lift the chassis up a bit to let that arm fold enough. There. Alright, and then we're going to pick the A-arm up and just line the holes up, and we're going to slide this pin right into place. I think I said we're in the lower holes. Yep. Here we go. Now I'll just grab my tower out here where I can grab it more comfortably and wiggle that pin right into place. A lot of times when they don't line up like this, it's not so much the arm in the wrong spot, it's that the shock tower isn't sitting quite where it needs to be. So what I'll do is just kind of grab it and tweak it a little bit, and then we'll usually let it go right in. There it went. Okay, now I can see it's peeking through and touching the arm a little bit, so I'll take my pliers and see if I can't get it back where it needs to go. Boom, she went right in. Now we're going to do the same with the other side. I'm going to be sure that dog bone is in place. You see there? So we'll just go ahead and put our A-arm into place. Lower hole just like the rear is. It went right in. Now I can see that it's poking through, waiting to go into the other hole in the arm. And that went right in by hand. Okay, so now we've got those in. We're going to go ahead, while you guys can see, we're going to go ahead and put on the little retainer caps. And those are going to be a 2mm screw. So I'm going to grab my 2mm. I'm going to chuck that up in my hand driver. And we'll go ahead and snug those right up. And these, I literally turn them till they stop and just give them a nudge, because there's hardly any thread there. It's such a small screw. This is what I do here. Yeah, stop there. Gave it that. Stop there. Gave it about that. Okay, so now we've got that in. We're going to change cameras here. We're going to move up so you guys can see the shock. Alright, let's go ahead and get our shocks back in. So, shorter pins for the shocks. And these little deals here that swivel around are called, they call them two different things on Traxxas. They call them either pivot balls or they call them hollow balls. I think the other day in the video, I don't know why I called them a bell crank. I was thinking about my next video, I guess. These are called pivot balls or they're called hollow balls. I think there's maybe two different length ones. I don't know. But everybody calls them something different. So we're going to put our pivot balls back into location in the upper shock tower. And they will, you can see that they slide right into place. You'll just have to raise or lower your chassis a little bit. There. Sit right in place. Put our pin in from the front. And I love how these slide in. They just slide right in there. We'll do the same with this side. I'm doing it blind. I think it actually fell in place. Yep, it did. Okay. Then we'll put our little retainer screws back in. There's only going to be 2 screws. There is no little rubber cap, no plastic cap on this one. Screw that in, stop there, give it a little more. Maybe a 50th of a turn. Run that one back in there. We're almost home free. Tight. Alright, now we're going to put our bumper back on. Okay, so time to put the front bumper back on. So looks like in all the commotion of moving this truck around and all that good stuff, I've lost one of the screws to hold the bumper. I thought it was stuck to the bottom of my magnetic dish, but it's not there. It's kind of dark behind my counter. It's possible it fell. My floor has dark areas on it, the way that it's designed, and sometimes they hide from me and I find them when I sweep. So what I'm going to do is just replace it, and I've got plenty of replacements here. Let me show you guys. Okay, so I've got some extra screws here. So I'm just going to basically find one to match that one right there. And these are all OEM Traxxas screws. So alright, that's it right there. Alright, now that I found a replacement screw there, we're going to go ahead and put these in. So the bumper will go back on. Just set it back right into place, just like this here. There you go. Sets right in there. And we'll go ahead and take our longer screws. The longer ones are going to go into the shock towers. So I'm going to grab my Dewalt over here. Longer screws will go right here. Tighten by hand. You hear that Allen little jumping around a little bit because that tire's kind of in the way. I'll just try and go a little slower with it. Good enough. We'll tighten it by hand. Then the bottom two screws go right here and right there. So we're going to go ahead and put those in. Probably going to drop this before I get it in there. Yep. Alright, so we're going to cheat. Put that one in there. That one there. Okay. Okay, now we tighten these up by hand. Like with everything else. Tighten these two up. That one, let me check this one more time. Nope, need more. Okay, oh, you guys can't see anything. Yeah, I should have said something. There, now you can see. Yeah, this one here wasn't quite all the way tight. I was watching this gap right here in the bumper. See it pull in. Now it's tight. Okay, then we'll tighten this bottom ones up. Alright, that's good. So now, first, what you want to do, is check your dish. If it's empty, you're good. If there's extra screws, probably still good. But for real, everything else, that's it. Your bumpers are back on, everything's tight, your shock towers have been replaced, nothing rattles, yay. Just go over everything before you run it, check that all your screws are tight, all your screws are back in their right spots, and just there's nothing missing. But now you guys know how to change your rear shock towers and your front shock tower. Also learned how to remove your steering bell crank. I'll probably still do a separate video on that. That way you don't have to just stumble across it if you're looking for a bell crank video. Maybe I'll upgrade this one, who knows. But anyway guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. Any of you guys out there watching my videos, if they help you at all, please subscribe. I would think that I have more subscribers than I do for the, all the comments and I mean not comments on YouTube, just people that call me and message me and say, hey dude, your channel helped me out a lot, yada yada yada. If you watch and you like my videos, actually hit the like button for me. Subscribe, doesn't cost you anything at all. You don't pay like a subscription or anything else. All it does is let you know, hey, Kevin posted a new video. It just simply gives you a notification on your phone, tells you, hey, Kevin posted up a new video, and you can watch it, or you don't have to. When you have time, you're welcome to watch it. One thing I was going to say is, the more subscriptions I get, the more likes I get, obviously it tells me that you guys are getting something out of the videos. I'm doing my best to show you guys exactly how to do it. I haven't been, helped out video-wise in the Banshee community for quite a while, but I miss helping you guys out. I miss talking to the camera. I miss talking to you guys. I like to help. I've always been that kind of person, so I figure I've got this at my fingertips, these vehicles. I got a lot of other trucks in the other room, So why not help out some of the guys? Who knows? You know, some of you guys that have Banshees might be into these too. So hopefully I can help you guys out. But anyway, guys, that'll cover the video for today. Next video, I'm not sure what it's going to be on. We've covered a few of the easier things. I'm going to work my way into the truck. Eventually, we'll be doing a complete chassis swap. We'll be doing front bulkhead, rear bulkhead. We'll be doing ring gear, diffs, spider gears, everything. You know what I mean? Everything, little by little. So again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Lighting should be pretty decent now. Finally got everything ironed out. The last video I kept like squinting. I wasn't mad at anybody. The light was so bright. Now I'm able to use 10% and I think everything's pretty good. The issue was this window behind me was backlighting me so bad. No matter what setting on my camera I used, it couldn't compensate properly. So now what I did was just cover the window up and put up some posters, and now it's bright as heck outside and the camera has no idea, which is good because before I could only record at night. One video I had an ugly green curtain back there. It was terrible. I said that's got to go. But now I can record any time of the day on weekends and stuff like that. So that's enough talking. I promised you guys I wouldn't talk in the videos, wouldn't talk before, but you know, afterwards I may have a few things to say. But at least you guys have seen the video already. So you guys, that's it. You guys have a good day. Y'all go out there, have some fun with these trucks, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.